Hello, everyone. Good evening. Welcome to another episode of After the Whistle, where we bring you player ratings and match analysis from our latest game, Manchester United versus Nottingham Forest at home. I'm Ankit, and this is Old Trafford Odyssey, your Manchester United fan channel. So, lots to get into today, so much to talk about. Let's begin this show with Bruno Brilliance. That's the statement, guys. An absolute masterclass of a performance by our captain, a huge win and a very important win for Erik Ten Hag and the squad, specifically going into the Arsenal game next at the Emirates. We definitely needed this momentum going into it. Mind you, it was not at all in any way smooth sailing or the easiest win. However, it's definitely a positive. There were quite a few improvements in the squad. However, there are still a lot of glaring concerns. So let's start with, again, brilliant, absolutely brilliant performance by Bruno Fernandes, who seems to be everywhere on that pitch and just insane. The heart, the passion that he has. Nobody in this squad looks more like he wants to get into that game and wants to make everything happen to make sure that Manchester United gets that complete all 3 points. He was absolutely everywhere on the pitch. A fantastic job today. And as we all know, the creative ability that Bruno provides, when he's having his best day. And, fortunately for us, yesterday was one of those days where, Bruno was at his absolute best. I want to see where all these critics now are, like, Graham Souness or Jamie Carragher, who I'm sure were absolutely ready and waiting to pounce on, Bruno with their own biases the second we were 2-0 down after 4 minutes. So I want to see what they have to say now, you know. So, with that, absolutely brilliant performance by the captain. But as I said, there are still a lot of concerns that are still worrying me going into the next game. So let's analyze a bit of things that happened. Wherein, as usual, time and again we've seen this even last season, wherein Manchester United, we always start a game sleeping. It's like the players are not ready. They're all flat footed on the back foot. They just don't turn up. They're always caught sleeping at the start of the game, which has to change. I have no idea what's up with this, or is there nobody else seeing this? Is there nobody else telling these guys, about this, that it's a massive issue, whether it's the start of a game or it's the start of the second half. We're always slow. We've got Akshat Rathore saying Bruno is the GOAT. Best thing that happened to us since Fergie left. Absolutely, I will completely agree with you, Akshat, there. That he is definitely the best thing that's happened to us since Sir Alex Ferguson. I have no idea, where we would have been without Bruno. The work rate that he puts in, he's absolutely everywhere on the pitch. And the amount of games that he plays, and Akshat says the first goal from Forest was diabolical. Absolutely. Completely unforgivable from Marcus Rashford to let go of Avonye there. Rashford was in a much better position to to come out of that winning the ball. But as we see time and again from Rashford, uh, when it comes to his defensive duties, he's not that aggressive. He's always just going half in, and that's inexcusable. However, it's still worrying to understand that in a scenario from our corner, why was Rashford the last line of defense? That definitely needs to be looked into. That why? Definitely, it was terrible from him to not have stopped Evony. But what was he doing there in the first place? I mean, generally we've seen Van Bissaka, who's supposed to be our last line of defense. So even in terms of his positioning, I think he was a lot ahead than he should have been. He probably should have been a few yards more deeper to prevent what happened. So definitely the first goal was absolutely unforgivable. It was stupid. And then again with Andre Onana, this is what we bought him for. So I think that, he should have been a little higher up. He could have probably come out and maybe got to the ball earlier. But surprisingly, and a very, very unlike him, he was quite deep and he kept backing off until he just fell down. So I think he could have done a lot better as well. So we need to be ready. We need definitely, the next game, we need to address this issue where we are always sleeping during start of games. We need to be on the money, on the front foot at all times. Akshat says, I thought De Gea came back. Yeah, I mean, that was a lot like what we would see from De Gea. But, in De Gea's defense there, I think probably De Gea had a much higher chance of probably making a save there in that situation, even when he stays deep. However, with Onana, we saw that, it doesn't work with him. He kept backing up until he just lost his footing. And then he was completely out of the picture. And Rashford was just a little too late to get there. So definitely this needs to be addressed. And yeah, Onana has to do better there. Rashford has to do better there. Wan Bissaka's positioning has to be better. So that's definitely again an issue of concern. Our players still look off the pace, not completely still fit. Not everybody looks fit enough. Martinez still lacks a bit of sharpness. He didn't have like a completely terrible game today, Martinez, but yeah, you can see and you can sort of tell that it's not at his best. Also, the defense right now looks like they're still getting comfortable playing in this new system with Onana in there. That cohesion is still not there yet completely. Craig says that both goals conceded were calamitous, and I will agree with you, Craig. That's a very astute assessment that both goals should have been provided, in my opinion, and we should not be conceding goals like that, specifically at home to a side like Nottingham Forest. That second goal, I don't know. Again, it looked like our defense was just sleeping. Nobody was. There was literally 6 United players in and around the area, and not one of them did enough to stop that header going in. I mean, Bolly didn't even knew what was happening. The ball sort of just came off of Martinez and onto his head and into the goal. So again, I don't know what we're doing when it comes to set pieces. We look like we're horrendous. Our positioning, our awareness, we're again on the back foot. People aren't jumping enough, not aggressive enough. So, and that defense, like I said, it still looks like, it's sort of working around this new way of playing with Onana. Because with Onana out there now, our defense needs to be a little higher away. The game is not exactly how it was played from the back when we were playing with David De Gea. So it still feels like, they're not a complete one unit there yet. So yeah, that's a work in progress. But I think that should get better going forward. So in the chat, Akshat says that even during the second half, there was an instance where Onana should have come out and Lindelof beaten him, and Forest went close to scoring that time. Yeah, you're absolutely right. I don't know what was up with Onana today, because he did have a disappointing game, specifically given his standards, and given like this is what he was bought in for. So this is what he's best at. So this is where we expect him not to be messing up, and it was really odd. It was very, very unlike Onana. I don't know what was up with him today. Maybe it's just one of those days where it wasn't his day, and yeah, so just disappointing. Craig says there's a lack of communication at the back. Absolutely, there is a lack of communication at the back. That I said, Onana isn't 100% sure of himself, and there is a lack of cohesion. Craig says, Then he goes on to add in that last season we were celebrating every block and tackle like a goal. Absolutely, that's a very very good point. If you guys remember our season last year, on every tackle, even the smallest of tackles or blocks, the entire defensive unit and De Gea, all five went like we've probably won a cup or something. The sort of high fives and the aggression and the that what do you say, you were oneness together, that passion that was there, that looked like congratulating each other on every small tackle. And that seems to have completely gone out of the window this season. There is absolutely none of that anymore, and I think that has to do with the change in personnel with Onana now coming in. It's I don't think there's an issue with Onana or the defensive lineup. I think it's just like it's still just a bit new and will take. It's a work in progress, so I think it'll take some time, and we will eventually start seeing a much better display of the back and a more cohesive display, in my opinion. Akshat says that probably Onana was a bit cautious considering that Wolves penalty claims. Could be, but I still don't. That's no excuse for a performance like that. Specifically, it's at home, and he seems to be one of those characters that doesn't really generally get bothered by these things. So if that's the case, he needs to address that and get back to what he does best and ignore these sort of things, and keep his character how it is, that big character, the presence where it's all right. With Onana, we all know we will have these moments, we will have these moments where they are nervy, and we might probably end up conceding an odd goal that you would probably not with David De Gea, but that's absolutely fine. We see that even once in a while with keepers like Ederson and Allison who are caught out. But that's sort of like, what you have to give up to get that added advantage of playing a modern keeper that Onana brings. So he shouldn't be deterred by these critics and given and put in performances like this. Onana will be fine. He'll get over it, says Craig. Top personnel with no lack of confidence. I'll agree with you. I think he'll get over it definitely. And like I said, we've got some really good personnel in there with Varane, who I hope is not seriously injured, because that's going to be a concern. But yeah, I think eventually Martinez, Varane, Onana, they will be back to their best. Then midfield looked better than the previous games. That is definitely a positive, wherein I feel the critique that the midfield was getting was a little unfair, in my opinion, because like Erik Ten Hag said in his press conference that it's not about the midfield. I don't think that the issue with the midfield is the personnel in the midfield. To be honest, I think it's more to do with the entire unit, the entire team working as one. The midfield looks still stretched, but I think a lot of that has to do with our back and the front, like Erik Ten Hag said in his press conference, wherein we still have people not contributing and fulfilling their responsibilities in defensive areas. When we are transitioning from attack to defense, we're still very poor when it comes to that sort of transitioning. So that really needs to be worked on. It needs to improve. Our players need to be sharper. They need to be moving faster. Our attackers need to, identify the second this transition from defense to attack is one of your players loses possession, you need to instantly track back and get over in position to do your defensive responsibilities and assist that midfield. What's happening right now is we still don't have enough of our attackers and defenders. They're still not doing enough. They're not doing what they're supposed to do in terms of identifying these danger situations during the game, during these transitions, wherein they have to be aware and understand that not every time you need to bomb forward. You need to understand and you need to be aware of what's happening around you. Like if, say, Shaw has bombarded forward, Aaron Van Bissaka needs to identify that and not bombard along with Shaw, rather than probably, stay a bit deeper, and in case something goes wrong, to give that bit of cover, added cover to Casemiro. Right now what's happening is Casemiro has no sort of cover, no sort of support, and even with a midfielder playing next to Casemiro, if our team doesn't do the defensive duties that they need to as a team, even two midfielders will be run out of the park. They will look like they're running everywhere. We see the in this game there were a lot of positives in terms of how we played, the amount of overloads that we had in attacking ahead. Yes, it definitely does leave us vulnerable behind, but if you see, that's sort of very similar to what Manchester City and Liverpool play under Klopp and Pep Guardiola. That's the sort of gameplay, that's the sort of tactics that they employ as well. But the difference is that they don't have a lot of their attackers, wingers, misplacing balls and passes and giving away possession as cheaply as Manchester United players do. There are certain areas of the field where City players will never lose the ball, or they will never give away cheap possession, because they know that this is one of those scenarios wherein if they make one misplaced error or a one cheap possession giveaway, it's going to straight lead to an attack, giving a counter attacking opportunity to the other side where there's glaring spaces behind, since we have a lot of men pushed forward to create those overloads ahead. So that sort of wastefulness has to be reduced by our forwards. So definitely that needs to be worked on. Dhruvarya Rathor says with Eriksen, our mid seemed more stable compared with Mount. I do agree with you, but I think Mount will eventually settle in. For Mount, I still believe, yes, there are things where he needs to improve on, but I think Erik Ten Hag knows what he's doing, and Mount, I think, will eventually find his foot once again. I think he just needs some time to get adjusted to the new role, because he hasn't been playing this sort of a role at Chelsea. I think this probably we all expected him to be up to the level by since he's had a full preseason, but unfortunately he's not. And as we've seen, a lot of our team is not up to the standard right now. Vidyut Xavier says it's what our fullbacks and wingers are not doing, which in turn leads to our midfield being exposed. Exactly, that's exactly what's happening. It's our fullbacks and our attackers not doing their duties to the T. They're not basically dropping in deeper and holding possession better. They're losing the ball in very dangerous areas very cheaply. Anthony needs to do better in that. Rashford needs to do better in that. With Martial, we looked a lot better in terms of our whole structure. He's better at dropping deep and holding possession a bit, as compared to Rashford up front, who we've all seen does not seem to enjoy being in that position. So yeah, for with Martial, definitely there is still so much that he needs to improve on. But right now, I'm just glad that he could manage to be fit enough for 60 minutes, and he's still very poor and needs to improve, in my opinion. But for now, I mean, there's as he's fit. That's just the positive I'm going to take out of this. So other than that, Anthony found Akshat says that Anthony found his right leg too, was using it. Oh, absolutely, that was absolutely brilliant to see. I think this was one of the better games from Anthony. We like I said, there were so many positives wherein we had a lot of overloads created going forward, and that sort of and with Anthony, we saw that difference wherein we saw a few times where he was linking a lot better with Aaron Wan-Bissaka. They seem to be forming a much better partnership with time, and we saw Anthony going a lot more than he usually does inside, and him using his right foot to cross or to put passes into the box was absolutely outstanding. Could have had an assist if Bruno would have gotten a better touch at that pass from Anthony. So definitely, yeah, he did deserve a goal. He had a brilliant shot as well. So Anthony, there were a lot of positives, but still wasn't the best at his best. I still believe that there's a lot that Anthony can offer, but definitely we can see progress. At least we can see that he is starting to get better as each game goes by. So guys, let's get into the player ratings. So that's my ratings for players on your screen right now. Let's begin with Onana, who I think, as we already discussed, had a very disappointing game. So by his caliber and standards, I didn't expect a performance like that at all, specifically when we're at home to Nottingham Forest. So I'd give Onana a 5.5. In my opinion, he wasn't the best. He was a bit below average. And guys, please get into the chats and let me know what you guys think. How our players have performed, your player ratings as well. So I'll do my best to read out as many of your player ratings out as well. So Onana is a 5.5 for me. Moving on to Akshat says that irrespective of the injury, Varane needs to be replaced by Lindelof. Oh, that's a bold claim because I wouldn't agree with you there. If you look at the last two games, Varane has by far been the best guy in a Man United shirt. He's had man of the match performances. So I really don't agree with that opinion. I think a lot of criticism towards Varane is really harsh. The entire team looks off the pace and not where they need to be. In fact, Varane has by far been one of the best players in the previous two games, and I did not see him do a lot wrong as well in this particular game because. Other than I mean, I don't know what he could have done in that first goal because it was a corner and he's supposed to be inside to take a header. So I don't know what he could have done in this particular game, and I hope he's not injured. But irrespective of Lindelof, we all know, I think he did a solid job, and he's always solid. He's always steady when he comes and puts in a brilliant performance, gives his best for the team as always. But I still wouldn't pick Lindelof over Varane. So Onana was a 5.5 for Vidyut as well. And Wan Bissaka. Let's go to Wan Bissaka. So I think Wan Bissaka had a much better game today, other than I think the first goal, wherein his positioning was really bad. You know, I think Van Bissaka could have been in a much better position to prevent that. Other than that, I think he had a pretty solid game, offered quite a bit going forward, linked up well with Anthony as well. So other than that, I don't think Van Bissaka did too much wrong, and one of the better players in the entire team in yesterday's game, in my opinion. For me, it's a 7. Uh, let's see what you guys think. Van Bissaka, how his game was. So Van Bissaka was a 6 for with youth. Dhruv Arya says, I just hope our 80 million fridge leaves. I mean, I really hope he gets the message now. I mean, he was still not picked up. He's not played a single minute this year. I don't know what he's thinking. So we all hope that, he sees that and leaves. All right. So moving on to Rafael Varane. So Rafael Varane was, I think, again, for me, didn't do anything wrong, was a solid 6.5. At least till the time he wasn't injured, he was pretty good. Not at his best, definitely, but I don't think he's done much wrong in this game. Lindelof, Martinez, I think, was a steady 6, average at best, wherein he wasn't at his best. Did look a bit out of shape. He still, I think, a lot right now, a lot of it has to do with his fitness. He just doesn't look fit, so he needs to get that fitness back. So for me, Martinez was a 6. Oh, let me get into the chats to see some of your ratings, guys, for the defense. We've still got Dallo. So yeah, Dallo, I think, again, a bit out of position on the left hand side, but yeah, the second goal, I think the free kick that he did give away was a bit stupid by him, um, a bit too aggressive. He could have easily just pushed him a bit wider, and rather than just going in with the way he did and conceding that cheap free kick that led to the goal. So again, a bit not at his best, but a bit out of the position. So I'd give him again average at best, so 6. Dallo was a 5 for Craig. I mean, that's fair. Like I said, a bit out of his position, so I was a bit lenient on him, but definitely nowhere close to being his best. Absolutely. So I completely get if some of you guys have marked Dallo 5 or a 5.5. Moving on to our midfield, guys. So let's get to Casemiro. And Casemiro for me was, again, didn't do a lot wrong. Could have been a bit better. Still not at his best. But, we saw him bombing a bit forward, a bit better. As the game progressed, Casemiro started to get better and better and got more into the game. I'd give him a 6.5. The run that he made, he was quite solid. Um, Not much he could have done in either of the goals, I believe. So I'd give him a 6.5, definitely. But again, for Casemiro standards, I think Casemiro could be better. I definitely do understand that, a lot of why Casemiro looks to be how he does right now has to do a lot with our team not working as a unit and doing enough to support him. But I still believe that Casemiro has is not completely at his best. So I've probably cut out a point 0.5 from his rating for that. So Craig says Casemiro was a 7. Vidyut agrees with an easy 7. So let's get to Ericsson. So Ericsson was really better, not bad. I mean, with Ericsson in the midfield, we seem to have a bit more stability, seem to be a lot more controlling. The game was a bit better with Ericsson on the pitch and his ball playing and passing abilities. So definitely, Ericsson didn't have the worst game, but again, even with Ericsson, I think he could have done better with his standards. I'd give Ericsson a 6.5. Not too bad. Definitely improved the midfield. So Craig gives Ericsson a 7. Vidyut gives Ericsson a 7 as well. Again, completely fair enough. 7. I don't disagree much with that. I've given him a 6.5 in my opinion. And coming to the star of the show, Bruno Fernandes, who's my man of the match, guys, and a solid 8. The man, as we already discussed, was brilliant, absolutely fantastic, was everywhere. The intelligence he shows, when he's at his best, it was just brilliant. For the goal with the free kick, his movement after we took that free kick, passing it to Rashford, you see Bruno's movement, heading straight towards the box, and the way he bends his run, to stay on side and see what Rashford's doing. And the second Rashford delivers that ball, the acceleration to get past the defender and get into that position, and then the awareness to head that ball straight to Casemiro for a tap in, just beautiful. And obviously, he gets his goal with the penalty as well, which, in my opinion, was for a lot of people, I don't know how people think that wasn't a penalty, but for me, that was definitely a penalty. So yeah, Bruno was my man of the match, definitely. Vidyut gives him 8 as well, and man of the match for Vidyut as well. Craig says Captain Magnifico. Craig says Ericsson doesn't tackle and challenge for headers, which is a major drawback. Though I'll agree with you. One of the reasons that for a little that point 0.5 that I've deducted from Ericsson's rating is what you've pointed out. And Craig says Bruno midfield engine room showed character. Definitely, definitely, he showed that character. He showed why he's the captain of the squad. And I mean, the amount that he puts in. There was this instance in the game where during a counter attack, Bruno gets that counter attack by getting in, making a pass that almost gets to a defender. He rushes out, puts in a sliding challenge, wins the ball, again gets up immediately, sprints again, puts another sliding tackle, again wins that ball, and then gets up and runs in to join in the attack. And it's just insane. The work rate, the intensity, the heart that that man puts on this pitch is second to none. Absolutely second to none. Brilliant, brilliant player, as we all know. And moving on, guys, let's get to the forward lineup and begin with Anthony, who we've already discussed, had a much better game. Anthony, for me, was a 6.5. He was a lot better. We saw a lot of things from Anthony that we have been hoping to see him using a bit more of his right foot, using the channels a bit more rather than just trying to cut in. So the set piece with him playing himself on side was simply world class. Absolutely, that was just brilliant in footballing intelligence. So yeah, and with Anthony as well, like I said, definitely there's still a lot of room for improvement, and I think there's so much more that he can offer. But one of his better performances in a United shirt, and he is progressing. So I'm quite happy with that. 6.5 for Anthony. With Martial, Martial has been, I mean, like I said, I'm just glad that he could stay fit. That's, I'm at least 60 minutes where he was fit. But in terms of his performance, my rating for him is a 5. Abysmal, extremely poor, as usual, lacks intensity, heart, passion, very lazy, on the back foot. He does have his advantages in terms of his movement a bit and things, but it's nowhere close to being enough for Manchester United striker. So I don't know what's gonna happen. I'm just hoping that Hoyland can come and do well, because I don't see how we can do better than last year with Martial up there. So even if he does manage to stay fit, so I definitely hope that Hoyland can come and click, which is really harsh, and it's unfair to have to put that sort of pressure and on such a young player who's coming into the Premier League and with so much of an experience. But that's the state we're in. Craig is waiting for Hoyland. Dhruv Arya can't wait for our Danish striker. And Craig says Martial's a fraud. Martial coasted through the game. I mean, I'm gonna agree. I'm definitely gonna agree with all of these comments out there. Martial is atrocious, as we all know. So even if he does stay fit, I don't think there's not much he can offer, or I don't see that spark in him. I think it's time that we have to move on from Martial. We have no option, which is why he's being used. But my boy, I hope that Hoyland comes and clicks. So yeah, with that, let's come to the last player, which is Rashford. Uh, so Rashford, guys, for me was I'd give him a 6.5. Again, inexcusable for that first goal. That with Rashford, time and again we see when it comes to defensive duties, he's just never aggressive enough. He's never going with intensity. He's always lazy when it comes to, he just seems like somebody who doesn't want to press, who doesn't want to put a tackle in. So when it comes to his defensive duties, extremely poor. I don't know. I mean, he needs to work better with that. We all saw that, Rashford's a lot better on the left, as we all thought. Definitely attacking wise, he was a lot better. His movement was sharper, his movement was better, taking on players, putting in balls in, getting 2 assists, which was absolutely brilliant. So, credit where it's due. Marcus Rashford was a lot better than we've seen in the last few games, and putting him in the position he's comfortable clearly works for us, as you know, and for him as well. This, I think that's already now quite clear for everybody. So for me, Rashford is a 6.5. I've deducted a point 0.5 for that first goal, and the defensive responsibilities that he always fails at. Craig, that goal wasn't his fault. He was the last man in the second minute of the game. I still don't believe. Like I said, I would still question as to why Rashford was where he was. Why was he the last man? I mean, Wan Bissaka should have been probably positioned better, but that does not excuse Rashford from what he did. That was absolutely unforgivable, in my opinion. It was atrocious. He was in a way better position than Awoniyi to get to that ball. If he had more heart, if he was on his feet, not back flat footed, lazing around, he could have easily closed him more, put in a tackle, get a bloody yellow card for the squad, put a sliding tackle if you have to. That, I mean, time and again we've seen with Rashford when it comes to these things. It's a 50-50 chance, and Rashford will never go in. So there is no excuse for that, in my opinion. Yes, we need to address why he was the last man, but that does not absolve him of the crime that he committed by not putting his all to stop Awoniyi. Dhruvarya says, I just wish if we had a bit more budget, we could have gone for Leonardo Aguero like player. If we had the budget, we could have gone for a lot more. Trust me, the 400 million pound that Ten Hag keeps getting criticized for by the mainstream media would look very different on the pitch if we had better owners, a better structure that actually backed our manager. So that 400 million would look very different on the pitch than it does right now. Apart from Onana, Mount, Anthony, not one signing has been his first choice. So I wouldn't blame Ten Hag for anything. The man's a genius. He knows what he's doing, and he's already improved us a lot. And I still believe and have faith that he knows what he's doing. But if everybody's expecting him to keep making miracles, and pulling these rabbits out of hats year after year with no backing, that's not going to happen. I worry that very soon this fan base will turn on him eventually, say come January, if we don't improve. And if we don't get in somebody like an Amrabat and Toribo in, I don't see us making top 4, to be honest. And if that turns out to be the case by January, I see our fan base starting to turn on Erik Ten Hag, with the Glazers and their PR spins that will completely try and put the blame on the manager like they always do. So I think Cucurella can work. A season ago, he was pretty good. Well, I mean, I'm not really sure about Cucurella, but I still think that it's still better than what we have. So I would welcome that. So, guys, with that, I think it has been a great show. A lot to still work on and improve on, but definite positive. So let's end this show on that positive note that we got those 3 points. We're currently sixth on the Premier League table, and three really big and important points, specifically going for into our next game at the Emirates at Arsenal. A bit of momentum. So absolutely over the moon that we ended up getting those 3 points, and we saw that character from the team to not drop their shoulders after we go a few goals down, like we've seen in the past, but get up, stand up, get that composure, and get back into the game. So I'm absolutely over the moon for that. Hit that like button on this video for that. It's been like a brilliant what do you say, end to this to our third game, and that home game, our home form has been a saving grace, so I'm absolutely glad about that. So thank you guys for tuning in. If you guys enjoyed the content, please hit that subscribe button on the bottom right hand of the channel. It will really be a lot of help for us. We'll get more for you guys, and we'll see you guys next week before the Arsenal game for our before the whistle. So thank you so much. As always, been a wonderful show, guys. See you.